Pavilion on the Stores campus of UConn. The Huskies getting ready to host UMass-Lowell, and we are taking you right up to the top of the hour with all your coverage right here on SNY. And hello, everyone. Welcome to the UConn men's basketball pregame show. I am Michelle Yu, joined by these handsome gentlemen, Vin Parisi and Tariq Turner. The Huskies are taking their two-game win streak into tonight's game against the Riverhawks, and that comes on the heels of arguably their most complete performance of the year. On Saturday afternoon, UConn beat the University of New Hampshire 91-66. The Huskies got contributions from everyone as their entire starting five was in double figures, led by Jalen Adams and Josh Carlton with 17. But Coach Dan Hurley knows that the team may need more moving forward.
For us to win some of these high leverage games that we've got coming up, like, you may need 25, 28 from Jalen. You may need one of those explosive nights from a couple of our key guys. But, in these types of games, these are the ones where you really got to kind of show balance. I think on good teams, on good teams, different people step up and play well. On nights where other guys aren't taking advantage of their minutes, and just to get 5 guys in doubles, I think was good for us. I was just happy with the way they responded to our message of passing the ball more.
Let's shine the light now on UConn's offense presented by Connecticut Lighting Centers. UConn has already scored over 80 in 5 games this season after just 4 in all of last season. The Huskies have topped 90 points 3 times after not accomplishing that once last season. And that brings us to ask the question, is this high-octane offensive pace sustainable with such balanced scoring, or does a second guy need to come and help out Jalen Adams?
Well, what Dan Hurley's telling you right there is that the competition is going to go to another level in January and in February, but I think this depth is a good problem to have, because what it's showing you is that on those nights when teams try to really load up on Jalen Adams, that Dan Hurley has guys that could go for double digits. Dan Hurley has guys, multiple guys, 3 to 4 guys, such a deep perimeter that could have 15 to 20 to 25 points, even a Terrence Smith coming off the bench. So, listen, I don't think it's going to be as perfectly balanced moving forward when you look at the box scores, but I think he knows what he has now in his back pocket.
Well, if you look at college basketball and the dominant teams that have success consistently, they usually have 3 to 4 high-quality guards that they can depend on. It takes pressure off of a guy like Jalen Adams, who had to do everything last year and the previous year. Now you have Gilbert, who takes pressure off of Adams. You have Smith, who's really a 6th starter that can give you double figures, can guard multiple positions. And then you have Vital, who's also an experienced guard in the backcourt. So 4 quality guards. That's not the only reason why they're scoring over 90, but their ability to push tempo, play with pace, and spread the ball around is certainly the biggest factor.
And you know what's key with that is that they're not in their own world. It's not like you have one guy that's solely a penetrator, or you have one guy that's solely a catch-and-shoot jump shooter. These 3 or 4 perimeter guys are interchangeable parts. They're very similar.
There's certainly some nice depth that Dan Hurley can work with here. We now welcome in our very own Maria Marino, live from Gamble. And Maria, as we heard Coach Hurley say following the win against New Hampshire, the Huskies may need Jalen Adams to score more to carry that balanced attack. But you were at shoot-around today. What did he say to you about the need for a secondary scorer?
Interesting is that secondary scorer has pretty much been different every game so far besides Jalen Adams. Now, in the last game, we got more of a team effort and contributions across the board, but otherwise it's been Jalen Adams, and then it might be Christian Vital, it might be Terrence Smith, it might be Tariq Gilbert, and that's kind of good and bad, because on one hand you have options, but on the other hand you don't necessarily know where your offense is going to come from. So I asked Coach, does he have any idea going in who that other person will be to step up aside from Jalen Adams? Does it depend on the matchup, or how the team is going to just come out energy-wise? And he said no, he does not have any idea who it's going to be until it happens. And I think that means he just has to be ready for more in-game adjustments.
Now, a surprising aspect in Saturday's victory was UConn scoring 54 points in the paint. Does Coach view that as something that we can expect to see again tonight?
Not necessarily. Last game, again, was a complete effort, and the ball movement was great. So guards were finding the open man under the basket. They were getting a lot of assists. But I think it's important to note that the high rebounder in that game was Christian Vital. And so I'm not sure about this front court yet. I think that they might still be up and down as far as consistency goes. And as far as Coach Hurley, I think he's looking to still see, based on matchups, whether or not he can utilize certain guys. So, for instance, tonight, UMass-Lowell has a bit of a smaller lineup. So Coach indicated to me that we may see less Eric Cobb and less Josh Carlton because they're more traditional style bigs that have trouble being mobile and guarding out on that perimeter. So we might see more of a smaller lineup from UConn, which we have seen in the past with Tyler Polley playing the 5 and there being 4 guards out on the floor, Michelle.
All right, thank you so much, Maria. Now, UConn only hit 3-pointers, and they still scored over 90 points on Saturday. And we just heard Maria say that UConn will go guard heavy tonight. Let's get your opinions here. Do you like that strategy?
Well, let's be honest. UConn is much better than the last couple of teams they faced, and I don't think we're going to see many games this year where they only hit 4 from downtown. What I do like about it, though, is that they've shown that they could win in other ways. And Tariq, you know this, is that when you get into those conference wars of January and February, you're going to have some cold shooting nights, especially on the road. This team has shown that they could smother teams defensively and score off that defense.
Well, if you look at the body of work so far, they don't beat Syracuse without Eric Cobb playing the way he did. In the Garden, those 2 games they played, Syracuse and Iowa, he averaged a double-double. Now, you won't get that every game from Cobb, but the two-headed monster of Cobb and Carlton have to give you something. They're not good enough to just depend on those 4 guards. And even Polley, who's been kind of the unsung X factor, he has to give you something with his versatility. When they play small, he'll play the 5 sometimes. And when they play big, he'll play back to the 3 or the 4. So that versatility, being able to play different lineups, different matchups, sometimes they'll go positionless and they'll play 4 guards. And that's why Danny Hurley is so excited about this team, because he has options. He doesn't have to just play one way.
Well, Dan Hurley is 5-1 this season, hopefully wanting to get his 6th win tonight, and we are just getting going here on the UConn men's pregame show. As we have discussed, the Huskies are getting contributions from their entire team, including off the bench, and tonight they will be adding another to that group. We explain next. Welcome back, and there he is, Sidney Wilson. His 6-game suspension has ended as he is eligible to play tonight for the first time since signing with the Huskies in the summer of 2017. Coach Hurley spoke on Saturday about what Wilson can bring to this year's team.
We didn't stop the season waiting for Sid. Sid's going to have to earn, his minutes in practice here. We do have depth, and he's got to carve out minutes and opportunity for himself in practice. So, that's something that is probably he should have been thinking about in the last, week. And now that he's eligible, he's going to have to earn it in practice. He's going to have to, kick Tyler's butt and get after these guards and fight his way onto the court.
Now, Sidney originally committed to St. John's before having a change of heart and transferring to UConn in the summer of 2017, like I mentioned earlier, which resulted in Wilson having to sit out all of last season. And Tariq, we know you know everything about St. John's players. Can you tell us a little bit about him and what type of player he is?
Well, I got a chance to spend some time with him and watch him up close when he was with St. John's. And the thing that jumps out about Sid Wilson is, first of all, he's a freak athlete. He's probably the best athlete on this UConn team. Extremely long, a 7'1" wingspan, I believe. It says he's 6'7", but visiting him this preseason, he looks like he might have grown a little bit. He's a little thin, but the thing about him is his versatility. And, I had the chance to play against a guy named Malik Sealy in summer workouts, right? And even though he was older than me, Sidney Wilson reminds me of Malik Sealy. The length, the jumping ability, the athleticism, surprisingly efficient shooter. He's even improved his range. He's a versatile defender, can guard 1 through 4. And I think talking to the staff, when he comes up to speed, Vin, and when he's ready to play and he's adjusted, they can see him playing more minutes at the 4 as a small ball 4 or a big wing 3. So he's got a lot of versatility, but the most important thing Danny Hurley said is he's going to have to earn those minutes. And when he earns them, he's going to be at a level where he's going to do nothing but add to the depth of this team, whether he's playing the wing or the 4. His versatility, his athleticism is something they don't have right now. And
communicating back and forth with Danny Hurley today, I mean, it sounds like he's going to bring him along slowly. And you heard Danny talking about having to earn the minutes. I think you'll see him little by little play, you know, more and more. But the fascinating part about this is he would probably take minutes initially away from a Tyler Polley, who's been playing very well for them right now. So that's an interesting dynamic for us to keep an eye on.
Well, it's interesting because you're probably right, theoretically, but Polley can play the 5, and he played it in the last game versus New Hampshire. Yep. And I could see them possibly moving Sid Wilson to the 4 and let him use his athleticism, stretch the floor, bring bigs out to guard him, and then they have 5 dynamic offensive players that can just be athletes and get up and down and push tempo. So there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. I think that's why Danny Hurley's so excited. I mean, his staff, Kamani Young and company, they get a chance to kind of mix and match and find what pieces make the most sense. And certainly Sid Wilson is a big part of that.
And especially in a game like tonight where they're not going to probably play Carlton and Cobb as much. So it's going to be good to keep an eye on.
Certainly a good problem to have for Coach as well. Now, we have some sad UConn news to report. Huskies legend Tony Hansen passed away this past Sunday morning at the age of 63. He led the Huskies to a Sweet 16 berth at the NCAA tournament in 1976 and ranks 3rd in program history in scoring. In 2006, Hansen was a part of the inaugural Huskies of Honor program as his number 42 was placed on the wall of Gamble Pavilion. Our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family during this very difficult time. We'll be right back. And that is Tyler Polley getting ready to face off against UMass-Lowell at the top of the hour right here on SNY. Polley has scored in double figures in 3 of 6 games this season after scoring in double figures just once last season. And Coach Hurley is seeing a steady improvement from the sophomore.
He's getting fouled. He's getting to the line. He's more decisive. He's more, you know, shot ready. And with his length and his shooting, it's a real weapon for us. You know, so, you know, I just think that, you know, it's all about confidence with him. It's all about, like, this new staff building a relationship with him so that, you know, he knows we believe in him. And obviously he's getting a lot of minutes on the court to get comfortable. But he's making, obviously he's making jump shots. He's getting in the mix on the glass a little bit, slashing a little bit. But he just seems to be involved in at least a couple more tough guy plays.
Now, keep in mind, Polley is not a player we discuss very often. What improvements have you seen from his game this season? Well,
you know, for all the talk about Jalen Adams and the guards in the preseason, I mean, he was really the only returning player that Dan Hurley had that shot above 50% from three-point land. So he was technically, percentage-wise, the best perimeter touch that Dan Hurley had coming in this year. And I thought Tariq made a great point before about when this team goes smaller, the versatility, be able to stretch bigs, bring some guys out onto the perimeter that aren't capable guarding there. But I think when you see his ability, like right there, that's a great clip of how he brings more than just half-court basketball transition. I think he molds well right into Hurley's style.
I agree, and I think he's the kind of player that can be a really X-factor two-way player with his length, his versatility. You know, he can really shoot the ball. He can stretch the floor, but he can also rebound. He can finish around the rim. He can guard multiple positions, and he's been re-energized with this new staff. You know, when you come into a new staff, you have to get, it's kind of like dating. You get to know that the staff, the relationship is building and evolving, and you can tell his confidence has grown. Last year, he didn't look this confident. I think it's because he has a fresh start and is really starting to show himself. Breakout game versus New Hampshire.
It's all about the chemistry, kind of like us in here.
Oh, we got it.
We definitely a lot, obviously, on this set. Exactly. All right. More to come on the UConn men's pregame show. Coach Dan Hurley has been bringing the energy to the sidelines for the Huskies. We are going to take a look at his coaching style after the break.
High-level chemistry.
There is Josh Carlton warming up prior to tonight's game. It's been an up-and-down season for him so far. After opening the year with 17 points, Carlton then scored a total of just 18 in his next 4 games before scoring 17 again this past Saturday. Which version will UConn get tonight? For more on the game, here are the gentlemen calling it. Gary Apple, Tim Welsh.
Michelle, thanks so much. And this is a UConn team that has put 5 in double figures, Tim, in each of their last couple of games. So very unselfish with the basketball. Is that a recipe for success?
Absolutely. They're passing the ball a little bit better from game to game to game. They're learning each other and learning the style they want to play, learning how to make good decisions in transition, which comes off their intense defense. And also they're rebounding the ball on a consistent basis. And all of those things, you add them up, that means you're going to win these tight games going into January and February. And they're starting to build a kind of a little bit of an inner confidence in these November, December type games that should be automatics, and they have been automatics.
You talk about the intense defense, and they do pressure, and that's a signature of Dan Hurley teams over the years. So how does that manifest itself, taking the defense to the offensive side?
Well, the impressive thing to me is they really. Well, the impressive thing to me is they really when they turn up the heat. But they're doing it without fouling for the most part, and they're not gambling. It's good, solid pressure, and over the course of 40 minutes, it wears you out. And as soon as they get the ball, they just race up the floor, and they fill the lanes, they space it, and they attack. And then if the defense comes to them, they make that extra pass. And everybody's built confidence, and guys that, bit players that from last year are turning into important players this year because they're becoming finishers, and the important players are having confidence in those type guys like Tyler Polley.
Right. The most important player, Jalen Adams, leads the way. He's a little bit over 18 points a game. As Dan Hurley has described him this year, he is an alpha. He has been big time for this Connecticut team. So tip-off just a few minutes away. We'll see you back here from Gamble Pavilion. For Tim, I'm Gary. Back to the gang in the studio.
Thank you so much, and here's a look at the next 5 games for the Huskies, presented by Town Fair Tire. Following tonight's game, UConn welcomes Arizona to the XL Center on Sunday. A week from this Saturday, the Huskies will be in Newark to take on the 15th-ranked Seminoles. Coach Hurley knows he needs to have his guys prepared for all these games, and he spoke following their last win about his coaching style.
My approach as a high school coach has really helped me in terms of just developing a buy-in quickly, just because I take a high school coach's mindset to coaching my college guys. I spend a great deal of time with them. I'm honest with them. I'm the same guy every day. They hopefully see the care and the passion and the obsession that I put into our program, into their careers, into their development. And, and obviously I make the conditions very difficult for them in a practice setting. But you can see on game night that I'm kind of with them, and I'm supportive of them, and I'm emotional behind them. So, my teams have always run through the walls for me, and I think it's just because I learned from one of the great coaches and my father how to develop that bond with players. It's all about relationships.
And it is all about relationships, as we've seen Coach Hurley's style and personality come out in his coaching style. How has this already paid off up in Connecticut for him?
Well, his dad is one of the best to ever do this at any level. And you go to a Bob Hurley senior practice back in the day, and it was like a PhD in coaching. Now, Danny took a lot of the same philosophies as his dad, and he's fiery on the sidelines, and they like man-to-man defense. They don't like zone. But I think the reason why players run through a wall for him is because he demands a high level. He keeps guys accountable like his father, but he has an unbelievable way relating to these kids.
Yeah, and what you're talking about and what Danny's talking about is not even about X's and O's. This is about bonding. This is about connecting with the players. And once you get that, then you can have the trust. You can have some kind of bonding where, this coach really cares about me. This coach really cares about me beyond the court. And that manifests itself on the court. And you see these guys in the post-game interviews with Danny Hurley doing press conferences, the players behind him joking and kind of, just having fun with them. So that's not fake. That's really tells me that there's a bonding, there's a buy-in, and that's something that he learned from his dad, who was the ultimate king of making his players play for him, and it was a genuinely healthy relationship.
There's a camaraderie, but a respect, and that's what you need in a coach. All right, we're counting down to tip-off. UConn hosting UMass-Lowell at Campbell Pavilion. It begins at the top of the hour, and we have our final thoughts after the break. Here's a look at the UConn starting lineup presented by Subaru. No big surprises here. It'll be Jalen Adams, Eltry Gilbert, Christian Vitale, Tyler Polley, and Josh Carlton starting it up for the Huskies. And that will do it for us right now. But do not worry. We will see you back here at halftime. Enjoy the Huskies against UMass-Lowell facing off at Campbell Pavilion. Gary Apple, Coach Welsh, they have the call from Stores. Take care. We'll see you at halftime.